Welcome to FM Corner. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Debi Kensell. Debi's executive director for RFMA. We've been friends for a really long time. We'll talk today about RFMA and her career, and I think you're going to find some great information here. If you're thinking about joining RFMA and you're not a member, please listen to our podcast today. I think there's going to be some really good stuff in there. How you doing, Debi?
Good, Danny. How are you?
I am fine. Thanks so much for taking the time. Let's start kind of a little bit, as I usually do. Talk a little bit about your career, kind of how it took shape.
Oh, wow. I was in oil and gas for years, probably 20 years. And I worked for a company in Dallas that was closing. And I had worked with a lady that her and her brother had started Prism. And she had known that I did our golf tournament for like 144 people, and I ran the United Way campaign. And so she asked me if I thought I could be their meeting planner. And I said, well, I don't know. It's a stretch going from a geological technician to a meeting planner, but I think I could learn it, And so that's how it started. And I just moved up through membership and education. Then I came to work for RFMA and did education for a long, long time. And now I'm the executive director. So I love the association business.
That's a great story. It kind of leads into my next question. I think you've kind of answered, but the path, this wasn't your path, like early in life. It's like,
Oh, no.
I'm going to work for an association. Kind of like me, I wasn't going to work for being a facility guy either. It's just kind of how it works out. And I think that's the way with a lot of people.
I think that almost everybody that I know up here in the association world started out doing something else. There is truly an association for every facet of life. There's pharmaceutical, there's medical, there's all different kinds. And for facility managers, this is a real niche industry. It's not like the National Restaurant Association is great, but it's got a lot of different areas. And we just focus just completely on facilities management and construction, a little bit of construction. So a lot of knowledge there with the subject matter experts we have at the conference and that type thing.
And I think it helps as you, whatever career you end up with, if you've had some experience in something else that's not related,
Yes.
because there's things that you learn that, helps you along the way. Like in what you talked about, oil and gas is certainly different than association, but there are things that you learn and ways to do business. And no matter what that business is, there are things that you get by doing different types of things. I'm on the service side now, but I certainly know what a facility person goes through and what their job is. And I almost can answer when I ask them a question, I kind of know the answer. It's things like that, both sides. And I think having something outside of what your career is gives you perspective.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely a broader perspective. Yes.
Sure. Absolutely. Talk just a minute or two about RFMA, from kind of doing the education and leading that for all the time, or Prism before, until now, to now being the executive director and everybody works for you.
Well, we all work together.
Sure.
Make no mistake. When I was at Prism, I learned everything I could about meeting planning, which really does come in handy now, because as the executive director, you do a lot of site selection and that type of thing. So that's come in handy. The reason RFMA hired me was to develop the CRFP program. Jack Quartercamp with Roto-Rooter came to me a long time ago and really, really wanted me to come over and do that, because Prism Now Connects had a certification program that I developed. And so they wanted one of their own, and that's why I got hired. In the beginning, I did membership and education because it was just me and Tracy. And so we were very slim staffed and had a lot of outsourced people, but we did a lot of work for just two people. So I would say the education was probably the thing that I enjoyed the most, just because you could see what people were learning from it. And when we first started the CRFP, we finally rolled it out like in 2010. It took a few years for it to really take off, but now there's several restaurant brands that it's a prerequisite to get hired, or you have to get it within the first year of being hired.
That's great.
So that makes me feel wonderful for sure.
That's great. You mentioned Jack Camp, and I told a story recently on another podcast. Said speaking about RFMA, I think it was with Carringer, and I said, one of the first committees I was on, the leaders of my committee were Patrick Henson and Jack Camp. And I said, I'm telling you right now, I was scared to death. Camp was like a professor. You had homework and stuff, and you had to do it, and it had to be turned in by a certain date and time. I said, literally, he and Pat was like, man, I was scared to death. And they are two of my greatest friends in the world. But it was funny. I said, it was one of my very first committees, and they were the co-chairs of my committee. And I said, I was afraid. I was more afraid of Camp than I was the people I worked for to get my work done and turned in on time.
And he's the nicest man.
Absolutely. Man. One of the nicest human beings you could ever meet. It's kind of like when you get put on the board and it's your first board meeting and you're absolutely scared to death because you don't want to say anything wrong. You don't want to do anything wrong. So you're like a deer in headlights, just listening and right. Okay, I don't want to make any kind of mistakes. That's funny.
Yeah.
What's your driving message, Debi, about RFMA to those that may be thinking about joining or interested in it and so on?
I don't think there's another place or arena where you can get as much information as we provide as far as education and just industry trends, new technology that's coming out. And then the networking, the being able to actually have honest conversations with your vendors at the conference. We do a really good job of doing events that are not a real high sales, type place where it's just common conversations where people are getting to know each other. And I think that's the best way to build partnerships. And then, of course, we have the magazine and it's got a lot of great information in it. We have a lot of events during the year. I just think it's the networking opportunities and the education opportunities. I don't think you can get them anywhere else. I'm probably biased, but that's how I feel.
No. I think that's great. And I think I have one of the ways later in my career after RFMA, being in RFMA for a few years and stuff, was as people would contact me about wanting to do work for Ruby Tuesday. And me, I would say many times, I know you brought a presentation. I know. I don't need to see that. What I really want to know is, who do you work for? What restaurant chains do you work for? Because that's my Google. That's what I want to know. Because if you tell me you work for XYZ, and I know the facility people, which I would, and I know what a good company they are, if you're doing work for them, you've checked off a bunch of my boxes. Now I'm interested. I don't need to hear the rest of it. I know that, and I know who to call and say, do you know this company works for you, right? Tell me. And have them tell you. And that ability to share, I have a friend who is looking for somebody to do some consulting work. Well, I reached out to Wayne Broughton, who through a recommendation from Keith, it said, call Wayne. Okay. And I called him, and he wasn't interested in doing the work, but he gave me another person that was. And,
right.
and I could have looked for weeks and never got what I got in 15 or 20 minutes of just conversation, of helping. And then if the opportunity comes my way, I try to do the same thing for other people. And you can't.
I think a lot of people have the misconception that we vet vendors, like as an association, anyone can join,
Sure.
If they wanted to sign up for membership, they can. And I think one of the coolest things we offer is having that restaurant roundtable that's just restaurateurs only at the conference, because that's where you vet your vendors. If you're at a roundtable and you ask somebody about a vendor, they're going to tell you real quick whether that's a vendor they use or that's a vendor they don't use, and probably the reasons why, and so that networking opportunity there is pretty valuable for the restaurateurs to be able to have that level of conversation with each other.
Absolutely helps a bunch. And then you do the CFRP or the class, and you learn, and like you said, it's a requirement now for some companies and so on. That's huge, and for a lot of younger facility folks coming in, that's great. It's
and
great.
A couple of years ago, I guess it was back in 2019, we developed Leadership RFMA. And I've had people tell me it's almost like an MBA course. It's a annual course, and a lot of people have gotten moved up in their company, gotten promoted for the work they did there. That's developed them more, in their leadership, so that they can move up. So I'm really proud of that program
That's
as well.
great. I mean, that helps people with their career. They're
Mhm.
learning things and they're hearing from others and so on at the same time as they're learning it. That's outstanding.
Right.
It's great for their career. Kind of tell me what you've learned about facilities and the kind of job that it entails through RFMA, all this stuff.
Well, I think whenever I was going through, we partnered with a company called Criterion to develop the CRFP course,
Mhm.
and you are the CRFP exam. And we had 12 subject matter experts. And if there's one thing I know, there's a lot of different opinions about the right way to do something. And so I listened very intently, because at the end of the day, you have to make sure you have the most right answer. It's got to be a consensus. And so I have taken that CRFP exam and passed, because I've learned it. So, I've I've helped develop it, but I also have a lot of common sense. And I think facility managers, that's one thing that they really need a lot of, besides just the knowledge, because it's, I think I've learned a lot. I mean, I enjoy the facilities, and listening to all the different stories about things that could happen,
I remember a conversation you and I had early on when the first group of people were putting questions together and so on and so forth, and said, "Hey, I just give you from my perspective. I am not a fixer. That's not what I do. I don't. I wasn't a former tech. I wasn't any of that. I don't stand on the roof and tell the air conditioning guy what he ought to do. That's not what I do. My job is to get it done correctly for the right price. And so I'm not going to know some of the things that maybe some other folks go, but there's a different perspective to that. And one is, how do you kind of get it done? And I know through different variations, there's all that in it and peace, because some people, lots of old time facility folks, a lot of them were former tech. They did the work. Now they became facility manager. There are other people like me that don't know much beyond a screwdriver. And that's okay too, because my job is to make sure the work gets done. And
Right. Well, and the CRFP is not going to make you a tech. The
sure,
CRFP is going to give you enough information and enough knowledge to know that the tech's doing what he should be doing.
sure, absolutely.
It really just gives you that knowledge to think, well, is that, what about this? So you're able to speak to them on their level, but yet, you're not fixing your own equipment.
Sure. At the same time. Right. You're
Yeah.
exactly right. For people that are on your team, or I guess another way to put it, that are in your trusted circle of people, what traits do they have to have?
Well, people say I'm extremely blunt. I don't feel that way, but evidently I probably am.
I'm sitting on the same church pew as you are.
Yeah, and I think honesty and integrity, all the normal things, but the work ethic too. I think that one of the reasons that everyone here at the office, the team RFMA, work so well together is we all have the same buy-in. We all, want to do everything we can to make sure our members have the best experience possible at any RFMA event, and really just dedication to a project, or dedication to getting things done properly and having a passion for it. Those are the people I try to surround myself with.
That's great.
And we have a wonderful team. Yeah.
And I'm thinking back, as you mentioned earlier, you and Tracy kind of being the only people. And for people like me that have been in River for since day one, it was kind of almost like run. If either one of y'all call the answer, just yes. I don't even ask the question, what is it? Yes. But in that was a lot of people that, they got blood in the organization as well. And there weren't a lot of people. There was only two of you. So you got to have help from other places. And some of the people that, now retired and so on, but that were in it, that was part of it. What do you want me to
Right.
do? I'm going to go do it. I want you to do this. I want you to call this guy. I need this, whatever it is you need, just say it and somebody's going to go do it. And that, I think that, helps because people wanted to be a part and they wanted it to grow, and
Well, and Tracy was such a great role model, and she had such a passion for RFMA and really created a culture where we could all thrive, and yeah, I couldn't have learned what I've learned from a better person. I mean, she laid some groundwork that is going to carry us through forever, if you ask me. I
yeah.
mean,
She did a great job, and you're following doing that now, also doing a great job. We've been very blessed to have both of
well, I
you
appreciate that.
in the organization, and as probably the oldest guy out there, I can say that. So we appreciate that, and you watch it grow, and you watch the people and how it's developed, and the team that you have, and things like that, and it's just so great to see, and it's always learning because you can always learn. I'm a big relationship kind of person. It's how I do everything is relationship and trust, and all the different people you meet and all the really people that are very smart in the industry and can help guide and teach, and you can share information with. It's just tremendous, tremendous.
Well, and I think, as being a past chair of RFMA, I can't explain to you how much I've learned from all the different chairs. Even when I was in education, before I moved into this role, it's amazing to me how busy you all are, but you're always willing to listen or share ideas or, just help to make decisions sometimes, because what the decisions we try to make, we want it to be good for the whole association.
Sure.
So it was always a pleasure to be able to call chairs or anybody really on the board that was willing to listen to an idea and tell us whether they thought it was good or not, so.
And you want that honest feedback. I'm
Absolutely.
asking for a reason. Tell me honestly, no,
Right.
don't just shake your head yes because I called and asked. Tell me what you think, and
Right.
because that's what helps. Exactly. What's the biggest lesson learned in leading an organization?
Well, I think just that you have to listen. You have to listen a lot more than you talk. You have to make sure that everyone on your team has a voice and feels heard. And sometimes I plow ahead, and that's been something I've had to stop and really develop to where I do listen and then I think about it and get back to you. But I used to not quite be as good about that. I think that's probably the lesson I've learned is I could be a lot more, I could listen more.
We share a lot of traits, my friend, and that's one that I've had to learn too, because I came from a culture of Ruby Tuesday, which was just do something. If it's wrong, we'll come back and start all over and do it again,
Right.
but go. Well, what that does is that leads you sometimes to, as you spoke about, make decisions without thinking them all the way through. And okay, I made a call and we're going, and now I got to walk back where I just went because it's the wrong call. So I'm trying to learn that as well of listening more. And I've got a lot better at listening, but making sure I know everything and then try to make a good call with all the facts, not 70%, of what's out there. And then that's a piece. So I'm still learning. I'm sure you are as well. It goes against your inner nature. Just go and get it done and so on. And you got to slow it down, and work on it. So good. Biggest regret in your career?
I don't know that I have a lot of regret. It seems to me like every time I've made a switch or done, a different job, I've learned something. And, I don't think I have regrets. I mean, the oil and gas business, it was very lucrative, but it was also very up and down. You never knew from one day to the next whether, you were going to have a job next year. I mean, it was just not real. It was a hard thing to do the best job you could do and still not know whether you were going to have a job because of the industry, just the economy. And I don't know, association business is just where I belong. So I'm glad to have done this and probably will end my career doing this. So yeah,
Okay.
I love the association business.
I know you're very proud of your team. Want to talk a
Yes.
minute about your team and kind of how good they are and job they do and
Well, we have 10 on the team now, including me. Jeff Dover just retired. We just brought on Carl LaBeouf. He's our new um, resource facilities manager.
Mhm.
He's been here with us since May 13th. But for the most part, like everybody stays. Heather's been here for 12 years. Ryan's been here for 10. So, I mean, it's a great place to work. We have a wonderful culture. As a matter of fact, we had a young employee that bought us cookies on her 6 month anniversary and said she felt blessed to work here,
Right.
because we do, it doesn't matter what your title is here. We all bring so many different things to the table, and it's just a great place to work. There's not one person on this team that's not pulling 110%. So I couldn't be happier with that.
That's
And our
great.
culture is amazing. And I feel like Tracy, she created that, and it's a great legacy. And we just try to continue to put our members first and do everything we can to make sure they have a good experience. And I think when you have a common goal, it's really easy to stay on the same page and lift each other up and support each other.
Sure. Absolutely. It's what makes a team great
Right.
is working together and everybody being on the same page and so on
Right.
is what drives it. So
Yeah.
that's outstanding. Where do you see RFMA in 5 to 10 years as an organization?
Well, I hope we double in size and are doing lots more benefits for people, maybe different programs. We just started developing a certificate program called the RFM Plus that should roll out at the end of the year. It'll be different areas where people can get certificates. And if we vet it, we'll continue to add to that program. You know, Now that we have enough employees where we can actually do a lot of marketing and research and just do more member services, our membership's grown and we're back to being, well, we're ahead of where we were before COVID happened. So to me, that's a plus. And we've never missed a conference, which was a really big plus. We never
Mhm.
had to cancel a conference. We did move one, but I just see continued growth from what I see.
That's great. And I think when you talked about membership being back and higher and whatever, it's no secret that the hospitality industry and restaurants are challenged a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of old favorites, if you will, or companies in casual dining that have been around for a long time are hitting some pretty good speed bumps. The way people get food has changed. The hour for lunch and talk about business and so on and over this or whatever or things like that. It is much more self serve. That's what people like, especially younger folks. I want in, I want to go to the counter, I want to get my food, I want to sit down and eat it, I want to throw my own trash away, I don't want to wait for a check. I mean, I want to control the whole thing because that's what they've done,
Right.
all their life. It's kind of like you speak to a really young person about somebody coming and putting gas in your car, and they've never done that. They've done lots of things themselves, and so that whole market is changing, and chain restaurants, which once were such a big deal, it's not there anymore. It's kind of they've run their course, a lot of them, and struggle. So it's going to be interesting to see. But the beauty in that is still have facility folks, still have a lot of them out to work, and you're adding to the membership, which is a very good thing because it's a challenging time for I think some of the companies that we've kind of grown up with. Being here in 5 to 10 years could be dicey.
We do have some chain restaurants that are super strong. Some of them are even stronger than before the pandemic. So that's kind of amazing to me. People either turned things around and started doing things a little bit differently, or they failed, and especially here in the Dallas area, we lost a lot of really good restaurants that were small mom and pops that won't ever come back. But I think on the whole, we haven't, I think the fact that our membership is above where it was whenever it happened, I think we'll have to be, conscientious about the economy, but I don't think people are going to stop coming. I hope. I think that it will, I think we'll get through this.
No, because there's a lot of good companies out there, been that way for a long time. And some of them are going to have to adapt, and that's the hardest part is when you change what you are to try to do something else. If you don't nail it, it's very difficult. And I've lived it, so I know it. And it's, golly, it's hard. So you got to pick. If you're going to make a change, you got to make the right change.
Right.
Exactly. That's pretty hard. So anything else about RFMA, Debbie, you want to share? We got just a few minutes here. Anything else?
Just that if you're in the restaurant facilities industry, it's a great place to network with your peers, find new vendors. We really are a great resource. We have a member directory. Once you join, you can go in there and search for vendors in a certain area, or you can search for restaurateurs in a certain area and get their feedback about who they use in that area. There's a lot of really good resources for members, and for restaurateurs, membership's not very expensive. So it's all the CRFP modules are free if you're a member for both sides of the membership. I really just can't say enough good things about RFMA. I think that if you're in the facilities industry, you should belong.
Absolutely. And we're in Las Vegas next year.
We are in February. We actually will be there Super Bowl week and leave right before Valentine's Day. So,
boy,
lots of things going on. Lots of things, and we're planning a lot of fun things for everybody. So
that's outstanding. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for the time. You're doing a great job running the organization. Thanks for sharing all the info to help people that may be looking to join or are already members and learn something else that maybe they weren't as aware of, but all the opportunities there. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, I appreciate it, Danny. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Debbie. Have a great day. Thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you upcoming on a different podcast. Thank you.